This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
The B.S Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The B.S Report. The B.S Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S Report, taping this on a Monday, Martin Luther King Day. We have a Grantland basketball hour coming. ESPN, 5 p.m. today, right after Hawks Pistons. ESPN, 5 p.m. Set your DVRs, watch it live, do whatever you need to do. Zach Lowe, Rembert Brown, Jason Whitlock, Jalen Rose, my co-host, even the dramatic debut of Dave Jacoby. Check that out, 5 p.m. ESPN today. But right now, football. Unbelievable day yesterday, at least the first half of it. Cousin Sal, you teased Seattle and New England, even though we both knew something wonky was going to happen. Was that one of your greatest wins?
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, because I had all but written it off and doubled up on the late game and everything, and it just I just didn't. We talked about it, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm jinxing you, but we already have New England, Seattle to be in the Super Bowl as one of our many hundreds of prop bets. This is the only one that survived. But I said, you know what? I'm doing more on it. I like both home teams to survive, and that was crazy, just insane the way that ended up.
Yeah, so before the year we had three small Super Bowl bets. I think it was like New England versus Philly, Philly, San Diego, Philly, San Diego, Seattle, and then the bigger one was New England, Seattle.
Yeah, San Diego was definitely in there more than we needed them to be.
Yeah, but it was small because the odds were so ridiculous. They were small, but this is 2 straight years now where the 2 favorites actually made it and then made it as 1 seeds, and so now I don't know if like the wonk team has gone out the window, but the first thing I want to say, don't blame the tight end who stupidly grabbed the onside kick only for what happened in that game. That was a systematic disaster that involved multiple players. It reminded me a little bit of 86 Game 6 World Series Red Sox Mets in that everyone came out of that game with Buckner as the GOAT. Right. But John McNamara screwed up. Clemens came out. The Schiraldi was a disaster. Bob Stanley was a disaster. There was 5-6 people to blame for what happened in that game. And I think the same thing for the Packers. First of all, Mike McCarthy, you're on the road. Why are you settling for field goals in the first half?
Terrible. I thought both coaches were bad. I thought Carroll was bad. I mean, first of all, Seattle's down 2 scores, 4 minutes left. They're running on first down. They're running on second down. It was, nobody wanted to win that game. And McCarthy, same thing, just like you're saying, 4th and 1 twice. And we talk about it over and over and over. What does the other team want you to do? Well, you're a Seahawks fan. You're ecstatic that they're kicking a field goal on 4th and goal from the 1-inch line, twice, right? And then 4th and 1. Early in the third quarter from midfield, they punted too. So, that's the one good thing about this. Mike McCarthy maybe regrets throwing that red challenge flag last week because he was exposed as a subpar coach, I think, game day coach.
It went beyond subpar because, the 2 4th downs, especially the first one when they had a half yard, you don't make it, fine. They're 99 and a half yards away, trapped on their own goal line. You're going to get the ball back anyway. Right. But I thought actually the most inexcusable thing of all the things that happened yesterday, and it just got lost in the shuffle, was giving up the fake field goal touchdown. Yeah. Come on. It's 16-0. They've generated no offense all day. It was a relatively risky kick. Mm-hmm. And they needed a momentum change. How are you totally blindsided by the fake field goal? What the hell are you doing?
That was bad. And let me just say, we were one Gary Gilliam fake field goal drop away from probably the worst conference championship games in decades, I think. I was looking back, and the Bills in '93. There were a couple years back in the early '90s that there were not fun Sundays leading up to the Super Bowl. But that kept them in the game, obviously. And,
my buddy Gus said, and I thought this was a good way to put it, in video games when you're beating your buddy, and he lines up for the field goal, that's one of those situations where you don't even put the block field goal defense in. You just stay in the nickel.
Right.
You're like, fine, take the 3 points. I'll be up 16-3. That's great.
Right.
You have those 3 points. Take them.
Yeah.
And instead, that was a disaster. And then, everyone's blaming the tight end on the onside, and Fox, of course, because Fox loves to beat the hero, villain, goat thing into the ground. Joe Buck's been doing it for 20 years. But what about the guy going into the slide with 5 minutes left and the interception with a wide open field? Like, the announcers just didn't even mention it. We saw no replay of how much daylight he had.
Yeah.
It seemed like he could just run for a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, they did everything to lose that game. Yeah, I hate that this Brandon Bostic thing is it's funny, Brandon Bostic, Bill Buckner. I just realized the double B. The double B curse is right now.
Alliteration.
But apparently he was supposed to get out of the way, and Jordy Nelson was supposed to get that. But how do you get out of the way of that? If you get out of the way of that and it bounces and then Seattle jumps on the ball, then you're a goat for getting out of the way. So you have to try to make a play on it.
It was coming right at him. Like, I feel like if he had blocked, it would have hit him in the back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. What's he supposed
But explain
to
to me the guy going into the slide with 5.5 minutes left.
I wish I could. I don't know what that. It really just looked like they were playing to lose or make it a close game or something.
That was one of the strangest plays. And in the moment, it was really strange.
Yeah.
I was watching with my dad and Kevin Wildes, and all of us were just dumbfounded. We kept waiting for the replay to see how much daylight he had, because there was 10. It seemed like there was 10 yards of daylight, and then there were two lumbering offensive linemen coming at him way back. But other than that, there was nobody. And then Green Bay had the ball twice with just a first down. They win the game.
Right.
First time, 2 run plays, then the incomplete pass. They gave the ball right back.
It's funny, the incomplete pass. You would have wasted Seattle's time out there if you run there. I don't know if it would have made all the difference, but they kind of did that against the Cowboys last week, and they had the helicopter tip pass that Cobb ended up catching on 3rd and 11, I think it was. But and they did it again this week, and it may have come back to bite them in the ass.
Then the second time, just a couple runs, they end up giving the ball back.
Yeah.
And then the defense just collapses. And this is yet another goat that nobody's talking about today. The defense gave up 3 touchdown drives in about a minute. 3 in a row. And then gets beat down the middle at the end of the game. The only thing you can't do in that overtime is not give up a touchdown.
Yeah.
And the guy in Curse had wide open middle of the field. And also, I would have been scared of Curse. There should almost be some, like, a sports writer on the sidelines of every NFL playoff team who could point out stuff like, because we were saying this when we were watching the game, like, well, every Wilson interception was designed for Curse. Doesn't it make sense that he would catch the game-winning touchdown? Of course he did. Right.
He lifts the curse. No, every pun intended. And we still haven't talked about the most bizarre play of the game that never should 0% chance of going down. Obviously, this doesn't happen if they don't get the onside kick. But that 2-point conversion catch by
oh my
Wilson.
God, yeah, Clinton Ha Dix.
Come on, what is that? You can't make a play on the ball or anything there, knock it down or knock him down or.
Well, there's so much at stake for that. First of all, it puts him up by 3, but more importantly, so what, 1.5 million teases were at stake there? Was Seattle teased down to 1.5 or 2, whatever you had him at, and all of a sudden this 2-point conversion, there's $100 billion on the line.
They have no business making that. Russell Wilson scrambling left, scrambling right. He's in trouble. He throws that alley-oop, and it's corralled. Unbelievable. It really is. I mean, can you remember 3 more devastating losses for separate franchises? Like, I don't count the Colts loss as devastating. Obviously, they got murdered and they were never in the game. But Lions, Cowboys, Packers, 3. These losses stay with you for years. And
but that Packers loss was 5 times worse than your loss.
That's the worst. That's in descending order.
The Packers loss is on the short list of all-time worst football losses.
Definitely.
I was thinking about – oh, by the way, one last thing on that 2-point. I've been waiting my whole life for a quarterback to just throw it up for grabs on the 2-point.
Yeah.
They always panic or they throw it out of the end zone or whatever. It's like just basically throw a 5-yard Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Because if it gets caught, so what? They can't run it back.
It's the equivalent of when they're lateraling it back at the end of the game and they need to score and the guy just steps out of bounds because he gets tired or something. It's like, they can't run this back. They can't do anything with it. The play's dead if it goes incomplete or intercepted. You just throw it to someone with the same color jersey as you. Hopefully something happens.
I still think the worst football loss I've ever seen was the Biner game. That to me is still number one because he was running into the end zone, and we didn't have TVs that were as clear as we had now. Mm-hmm. And it was just seemed like he was running in for a touchdown. And then all of a sudden, everybody was jumping on something, and Dick Emberg's going, oh my! And I've just never seen anything like that.
Definitely. That was.
And then you throw in Cleveland's history. This, and then,
Can I say one more thing of Cleveland's history? I didn't know. I thought they're waiting to make the video yearbook on the Browns. For the Browns, they're waiting for Trent Richardson to win the Super Bowl MVP. I don't see how that happens now, but I think it will. That they're just one stop away from getting it all complete.
The Green Bay one, like Music City Miracle, was a horrendous loss, but that was round one, right?
That was the wild card round, yeah.
I think everybody forgets how terrible the Favre Vikings loss was. And the fact that they were right there about to kick a field goal, and then all of a sudden he throws the pick.
Is that the Saints game you're saying?
Yeah, the Vikings Saints.
Yeah, right.
That was just as bad as this Packers loss from a rug getting pulled out, plus like just people in disbelief. Social media was around at that point. Mm-hmm. I thought this Packers one was had the most things go wrong for a football team that I can remember.
Well, I think a guy from Sportsbook emailed me that it was 20-1 odds when they were down. I guess they were down late in midway through the third quarter. They were still down 2 scores. Now, whatever it was, they were down 20-1. It was 20-1 odds if you wanted Seattle. And Wilson had 4 interceptions and a fumble that he recovered.
Yeah, and he almost had a Delhomme. That was almost a Delhomme. 4 picks and a fumble is the full Delhomme.
That's right. That is the full Delhomme. And also, you have Curse and Baldwin down to double digits. Boy, it doesn't look good right there. But the Seahawks in the second half continues to be a locked bet. It really is.
Yeah, the Packers only had 19 points heading into their last field goal drive to save the game, which Rodgers ended up getting them in overtime.
Right. Fairly easily. Yeah, he got.
I felt like they were moving the ball that whole game.
Yeah.
Like that, you could play that game 20 times, and I think 22 points in regulation with 4 interceptions that you get, and a kickoff fumble. That's the lowest point total you're going to have if you played that game 20 times.
Right.
So, I don't know how you get over that game.
Rodgers 19 for 34, 178, but seemed like he could move the sticks when he wanted to, and Lacey too. Run well.
Lacey was the whole game running up the middle.
Yeah.
I thought Rodgers said after the game, I thought it was interesting because players rarely say this now, but Rodgers said after the game, we had a better team and we blew it. I kind of agree with him. I think they had a better team except for the coach. I think their coach murdered them in that game.
Well,
and then a lot of dumb stuff that pops up, but God, my dad and I are sitting there. And we're trying not to jinx, like we want to play who or who because the Pats hadn't played yet, and we're obeying all the jinxing rules. Mm-hmm. But initially, we wanted to play Green Bay,
right?
And then as that game went on, we're thinking like, I want to play Seattle. Mm-hmm. This would be great. Seattle can't throw the ball. Like nobody's open on their entire team. They don't have a single receiver open on any play. Mm-hmm. And then Sherman gets hurt. And we're thinking, like, this is great. If Seattle can somehow come back here, that would be awesome.
Playing with one arm. I fully expected Sherman to pick 6 with one arm. Last Rodgers drive to cover the spread before they kicked the field goal. But
Rodgers needs to teach Sherman how to act better when he has an injury. I thought Sherman could have leaned over a lot more and really milked the bad arm. But then when it went into overtime, we didn't know who we wanted to win at that point. Who would you, if you were a Pats fan, who would you have rooted for when that game went into overtime? Who was a better team for us to play?
I think the Packers are easier to watch film on and try to figure out how to beat. I do. I think I'm thinking purely Belichick here, but I'll say this: if you're up 2 touchdowns and you're the Patriots, you're not going to play, excuse my language, football if you're Bill Belichick and punt on 4th and 1 and kick field goals on 4th and 1. You just know they're not going to do that.
No.
So that said, I think with a double-digit lead, you definitely want to play the Seahawks. So
None of our defensive players would have gone into a slide.
Right.
On the potential game-winning interception where you could have maybe run down the sidelines. I can't wait to watch that play on all 22.
Yeah.
And then here's the other thing that kind of surprised that kind of went under the radar. That last minute, like the Packers were driving, they had their timeouts. Like they had one play over the middle. They didn't call timeout for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It was just weird. Like, and then they go to kick the field goal, but they call timeout with like 19 seconds left or 14 seconds, whatever. And they kicked the field goal, but they left the Seahawks like 11 seconds left for something bad to happen. It was the strangest coach game I can remember for a team that almost made the Super Bowl.
They played the entire game for overtime, for Tavares Jackson calling the coin flip and hoping that they won and didn't give up a touchdown if they didn't get the kickoff. It was bizarre. It was you couldn't believe what you were watching.
Was that a fireable game? Because if that was one of my teams, like a Boston team, because I felt this way after Grady Little with the Aaron Boone game, which had a lot of similarities to what we watched yesterday with the Packers. Like it was, by the time that game was over, it was like he has to go. I can't watch another game that he manages, and that's how I would feel if I was a Packers fan.
Yeah, I would too. I think if you get a few players, belly aching about it, McCarthy, it's a rough one. It's really rough. Although you see some of these guys that the other teams are hiring, I don't know if there's a better option, but that was bad football yesterday.
How much do you hang on Rodgers? Anything? Does this go in his legacy?
I don't know. Legacy with the LEG in capital letters. I don't know what you do with him. I really don't. It's
didn't get the ball in overtime. Never touched it.
19 for 34, 178. Like the guy didn't even have to have that good of stats, and they should have won. But I don't blame him too much. I really don't. But what do you?
Well,
go ahead. What was that?
It still gets mentioned, I think, for him.
Yeah. Ahead of Manning.
First down in the last 7 minutes, and the game's over, basically.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I have to watch that.
You know, it was interesting when Seattle punted, I think with like 7 minutes left, down 13 or 15,
like 4th
whatever
and 12
it was.
or something, yeah.
And we were like, whoa, why not go for that?
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out. It was one of the rare times. It was like, yeah, we got to stop, got the ball back. Interception, still got the ball back.
They got it back and ran. I couldn't believe they were running as much as they were. They ran with 7 minutes left, and then there was no urgency. There was no anything. Like Seattle, like I understand why Russell Wilson was crying after the game. It wasn't something that they should have won. Bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I think you're in good shape here. I really do. I mean,
but are we though? Because like the Seahawks, they pulled that game out of their ass, and I can't see them playing two crap games.
Well, that's
They're
the
not
one
going to play
thing.
worse than that.
That's one thing we should maybe learn from these things. Like, be careful about judging teams by their last act. Like this weekend, you would have said, well, the Pats struggled to get by the Ravens, and the Colts beat up the Broncos pretty thoroughly. So let's go Colts plus the points. And then the Seahawks handled the Panthers pretty easily, and the Packers barely got by, benefiting from a disgraceful call/rule. So let's take the Seahawks to win big. It just doesn't work like that in the NFL. It really doesn't.
I think the Pats are going to be able to run on them.
Yeah.
I think their secondary against what I watched from the Seahawks receivers yesterday, it's going to be tough for anyone to get open.
Mm-hmm.
Lynch is going to have to carry the Seahawks. And Wilson. Well, it was weird that they didn't – I don't know whether the Packers changed what their defense was, but it was like Wilson had no space to do Wilson stuff for 3.5 quarters. And then all of a sudden, late in the fourth quarter at OT, all of a sudden he looked like Russell Wilson again.
Yeah. Yep.
Dom Capers. That might have to be it for the Packers and Don Capers. He might have to be another one that goes.
Yeah. But that Russell Wilson where he keeps it himself and comes around the end, that seems unstoppable whenever he wants it. Just some plays that these teams have, it seems unstoppable, and yet they can't put together 2 drives in a row. It's bizarre.
Biggest winners yesterday? Packers fans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I would
Lions
say no.
fans. Lions fans and Vikings fans.
Oh, really?
I think that was one of the great sports days they've ever had. I got some emails from both sets of fans that were just sheer delight to watch. It's like this weird NFC North thing dating back to when it was the NFC Central, but they feel like the Packers are like the arrogant. It's like the brother in the family that's doing better, making more money than everyone else, has like the hot wife, and you just kind of resent them the whole time.
Right.
And I think they really enjoyed seeing the Packers just fall apart.
They loved it. They did.
Like that's happened to the Vikings 200 times. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if that's one of the 3 worst Viking losses. But
I don't know.
I think the Viking fans really enjoyed it.
That is the worst. I think that is the worst loss. Coming from a Cowboys fan, I don't think
it had the most things go wrong. I can't remember a football game that had more things go wrong over like a 40-minute span.
Yeah.
What I can't even imagine what Vegas was like. Do you think there should just be a 24/7, like one of the casinos in the sports book should just have a camera? Like that should be the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Like what the NFL Network, they don't know what to show when there's
that's
football
a good
on.
idea. Yeah.
That should just be the NFL Network's programming. It's just sports books.
That's a great idea. And then show the endings for those. Yeah, because that culture is just phenomenal. Like you have guys who have $6 on a game, and you have guys that have $60,000 the other way, and they'll be yelling just as much at each other. They should definitely do that. Put the eye in the sky. That should be part of the all 22.
Well, the other great gambling moment yesterday was somehow the Pats didn't go over. The Pats scored 45 points and the game stayed under.
Yeah. It's hard.
The over was 50. It was 52.5. And his final score 45-7.
Our buddy Daniel had the over, a couple others, so he couldn't believe it. And I thought Bill Belichick for a while had the over because Tom Brady was in there a couple drives too long, don't you think? I mean, even you have to be like, come on. And then when they went after his legs, the drive before they took him out.
Well, and I was watching with my dad.
45-7, right? It was 45-7 when he was in. Yeah.
Yeah, the paramedics almost came to my house when the guy went at Brady's knees. I really think that would have been it for my dad. It just would have been over.
The poor guy. I mean, you talk about a fireable offense. What do you do? What do you do if Brady's out after that?
That's just their mindset. It's the weirdest thing. They never let up. Like that. That's why I like the Packers, that 19-7 game. The Pats, I can't remember 3 games that the Pats have blown late like that, like in the entire Belichick Brady thing. I remember one of them was 2004, the great year of the teaser. Remember how many 3-team teasers we won in a row? We won like 8 straight weeks of 3-team teasers. We were just rolling in money.
And then the Dolphins Monday night game, right?
Yeah, and the Monday night Miami game, I think we were up like 10 or 12 or something, and all of a sudden it fell apart. And that's Belichick's usually always stepping on the pedal. Mm-hmm. The weather, you feel like if that game was played in good conditions yesterday, the Colts maybe do a little better?
I don't know. I mean, between that and the deflated balls. No, I felt like an idiot taking the Colts plus the points yesterday. I really did. I said, this is stupid. The Patriots get the lead, and then they never look back. And there's just talk about preparing for a team. When Brady throws 50 times the week before, and then it's just a steady diet of LeGarrette Blount that you can't stop, like you're just in a hopeless situation, I think, if you're the Colts. I don't care what the weather is. They didn't belong in the Final Four, and they're not taking anything away from the Patriots, but they just showed how soft they were.
Yeah, I picked the Colts in my column just because it had been such a pro-Patriot week of pros for me. I didn't want to cement it by then picking the Pats to cover. I was scared, so I hedged.
Right.
But I took them in ZFL. I felt pretty confident about that one. Just felt like, you always like the team that probably shouldn't have won the week before, but the team they were playing, like weird stuff was going on, and Manning was just so bad in that Colts game that I feel like he single-handedly swung the game, and then the coaching was terrible, and it seemed like the Denver players kind of quit on Manning late, and I don't know if that necessarily meant the Colts were a team that belonged in the Super Bowl.
No, it didn't. But I'll say this, Luck didn't have a lot of help. It seemed like he's a one-man team, and they had a lot of drops there. And, again, the Patriots would have smashed them up either way. But
and Reggie Wayne, who had a torn triceps, was just useless. So now it's like T.Y. Hilton and Moncrief and the tight ends over the middle, which the Pats have been able to stop all year. Mm-hmm. And then
the game was over as soon as that punt hit the face mask. That was it, right?
But the Colts, that game in the first half was closer than I think people are going to remember because the Colts were moving. Like Boom Herron, that's part of the problem, obviously, why they didn't make the Super Bowl. Like Boom Herron, that one play, perfect wheel route that's killed the Patriots all year. And right in his hands, Luck threw it perfect, and he dropped it. You know, they had a bunch of plays like that. They had plays that were open in the first half, and Brady did not have a good first half.
Well, let's just do this one more time. Let's take a look back at yesterday. This is Vince McMahon, Canton, Massachusetts, Metropolis Skating Rink. Andrew the Giant Luck, you experienced a case of deflated balls. What are your thoughts?
I never noticed anything about the balls. God, I sound like Bill Walton. Let me try that again.
Go ahead.
It really sounded like Bill Walton.
Oh, it is you doing it. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was starting again. I never noticed anything about the balls. We didn't play well. We just didn't. We just as a team, it's just not a good game for us. Not a good. I went in Bill Walton again. I've just lost Andrew the Giant. It's gone.
That's it.
This summer, I really got to rededicate myself.
Okay, we'll figure it out over the break. Yeah,
it did feel like watching him. I feel like reminds me of Elway's Bronco teams in the '80s, where it was funny. I went back. I was going to compare them in a column, and I went back, and Elway's stats during the '80s, especially in those playoff games, were so much worse than I remembered. I felt like he was this one-man team that was throwing 4 touchdowns a game, but he really wasn't.
No.
But
in that regular season, he couldn't touch what Luck is doing. But I know it's a different game.
Yeah, it's a different era now. But remember, like Elway's, he was kind of getting there, and he'd make big plays when it mattered. But when you looked around at who he had, who he was throwing to, it was always like kind of these guys that they were there one year, they weren't the next.
Definitely.
And Luck, the only guy that if he wins a Super Bowl like in 2-3 years, the only guy I feel like on this offense who will be on that team is T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Maybe Moncrief. Who knows?
Fleener is a nice option most of the time, but yeah. That's they need to do some work there.
I think
it's not fair that they, if you'd wrestle and you had a good kid in high school, but the team was bad, like the kid was only going to go so far in the counties because he's rolling with the same guys, and you're playing in the AFC South. You're just not gonna get those good reps. You're not gonna play the tough nosed teams enough to win and advance and be used to it.
Well, the Ravens were the second best team in the AFC. And maybe that didn't really happen until January, but just like their A game, I think was out of all the AFC teams, that was the only other AFC team that I think could have played in the Super Bowl and done pretty well.
Yeah, that is the shame of it because, Brady's won his share against Manning anyway, but I think it's a similar result yesterday if the Broncos are in there. Maybe not 45 point, 35, but I think they lose by 3 touchdowns.
I heard, so I got a little inside info. I won't say from where, but apparently Manning was even bad in practice for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And I wrote about this a little bit on Friday, but I just don't think he can play 5 straight months anymore. I'm sure he can play 7 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, but just week after week after week, I just don't think he can do it. I floated out. I have a little clairvoyant Bill prediction. Yeah. I don't think Kubiak and Manning are going to make it in Denver. It just doesn't make sense. Manning's always wanted to run his offense. Kubiak's a guy, he hates shotgun. Like, he has a very particular offense that he likes. I don't see them making it. I really wouldn't be surprised if Manning either retired or they just cut him.
Well, when you see John Fox split like that so abruptly, you think, all right, well, he's got inside information. He had a heart attack last year. He knows Manning's not coming back, and he doesn't want to rebuild this team for the next 2, 3, 5 years. So that's it. But that ended up not really being the case because now a lot of the players are saying Manning told them he's coming back. And I think it's Elway. I think people are having trouble with Elway. By all accounts, he's maybe tough to deal with. So maybe Kubiak could even deal with Manning, but it's the Elway thing that maybe Elway heard your comparison and didn't like it.
I still think Manning to Tennessee is in play.
Really? Wow.
Goes back there, finishes his career, gets a piece of the team. His wife owns 5% of the Grizzlies.
She does?
Yeah.
Does he know about that, or is that just like a purchase your wife makes without telling you?
I think it's one of those things where he's not allowed to own the Grizzlies, so she does.
Interesting.
You got to really trust your wife. I don't know if I'd trust my wife with 5% of the Grizzlies.
No way.
She'd just take it.
No.
She'd be out.
Yeah.
Especially that's a nice piece right now. Hey, we never did a line.
We should probably do a line here.
Let's do the line. So
we did. I emailed you mine. You didn't want to jinx yourself, but I emailed you mine.
I have an issue with what you did last night. I want to talk about that. I'm going to confront you about this.
All right.
I didn't like what you did.
Oh, come on. The game was over.
No, it wasn't over. It wasn't over. You know it wasn't over. You mailed me. We usually, because it's so easy to see the lines now, we usually mail each other the lines after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, and we did this every round. So it's like, okay, now we know the 1 seed's playing the 4 seed, so here's my guess for that game because I want to guess it before I see it.
Right.
You mailed me your Super Bowl line guess. I'm going to look at the exact time. I want to get all my info right here because I really didn't appreciate what you did. Yeah, you mailed it to me at 6.
I think they went on a 17-0 run after I emailed you. I don't know.
You mailed it to me at 6:01 p.m. The game started at 3:40. It was like 24-7. You mailed it to me.
Nah, was it? The game was over. It was
like 24/7. You mailed me your Super Bowl guess. I didn't appreciate that.
Well,
if I did that to you, you would have had a heart attack.
The sports book, I guess you couldn't bet it, but I kept seeing on Twitter. I'm like, I have to get this out because I kept seeing Super Bowl line, early Super Bowl line. They had the Patriots. They didn't have Seattle versus Indy, or they had Seattle versus New England. It was in the third quarter. I said, "Oh boy, we should get that out." But I apologize that I threw off your mojo there.
No, you didn't throw off my mojo because I put it this way, I wasn't worried. I just thought it reminded me a little bit Louis K.
Yeah.
Jimmy's PR flack.
Yeah.
As well as our friend.
Right.
He hates being called a flack, so we're going to call him a flack.
Okay.
2010 NBA Finals. He's a huge Laker fan.
Yeah.
At halftime of Game 7, he emailed me congratulations for winning the title, and he knew what he was doing. I didn't talk to him for a couple months. I was really mad. I'm still mad about it. I'm going to get him back at some point in his life.
You should. I'll help you get him back. But
then
that
he's
was
like,
far different.
I didn't mean to jinx. I really thought it was over. I was like, no, you didn't.
What were they up to, Celtics? What were they winning by?
We were up by like 12 or something.
It was like 48-36 in the fourth quarter.
It was bullshit. Kobe was playing terrible, and he tried to jinx it, and it worked. So I'll get him back at some point in his life. Celebrities, don't sign with Louis K. He does stuff like that. He tries to jinx your teams.
That's great. I love this. This is going to be a big problem.
Maybe that'll be my revenge.
Yeah, don't sign with Louis K.
No, I've forgiven Louis. Louis and I are good. I was hurt. I was hurt that he tried to jinx my team. I didn't think he would play dirty pool like that.
Can we talk about the ultimate jinx on your team? I mean, this is the equivalent of Julian Edelman coming down with a fractured fibula. I watched the game with Corolla, and for the entire fourth quarter, after I'd send you my guess, he's like, well, the Pats will be favored, by 4 in the Super Bowl? I said, no, it opened in a lot of places. It's Seattle by 2.5. Oh, no, don't tell me. Don't tell me. And then really, I'm not kidding, for 40 minutes, he went on and on about how, basically on yesterday's games, how atrocious that line is. He got in early, 5,000 on the Patriots.
Oh, my God, why?
Yeah.
Why?
So I'm sorry. I guess you don't even have to watch the game now.
That's it. I'm having Allison Rosen on my podcast. She's getting me to do a whole Super Bowl podcast with her. Bringing her in studio. She can read the news. I'm done. I'm done with Corolla. How dare he does that to me.
That's great news. We both picked that it would be Seattle minus 2.5. And it actually did open at Seattle minus anywhere from 1 to 3. And now, as of Monday morning, the Patriots are favored by 1.5 points.
Oh, wow. So move 4 points?
That's what I mean. It's like people are really, just like they did last week, they're basing their bets on yesterday's performance. Not sure it's completely warranted. I don't know. I don't know yet.
So Vegas really screwed up with that line.
Yeah, there's a ton of money.
Because that's terrible to miss by 4 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why did you think it was 2.5? What was your reasoning?
I thought the NFC represented was going to be favored by 3, just whoever it was, and then unless the lower seed got in there, and then I just factored the half point on the Patriots, on their superb play yesterday, superior play to Seahawks. Why did you?
Yeah, I was thinking. In my head, I was thinking all week, if Seattle wins and New England wins, Seattle by 3. But then I thought Seattle looked just vulnerable enough that that maybe 2.5. You know what? You know, it was a hidden subplot, another hidden subplot of that Seattle Green Bay game. And I didn't realize this till my friend Chip from college emailed me, who's a diehard Wisconsin-Milwaukee guy. Because they had a taste of Russell Wilson. He was at Wisconsin.
Right, yep.
And he was just like, alligator tears. Like, he was just so mad. Like, well, typical Wilson pretending to cry after the game. It's really like he's now I think Wisconsin's turned on Russell Wilson.
I love it. Yeah. He was never supposed to be drafted, let alone the top 3 quarterbacks in this decade.
My teammates lifted me. I'm so turned on him. Remember when you used to make fun of me that he was my boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've totally turned on him. It's like we don't even talk anymore. Yeah.
Well, with
I returned all his stuff.
He really talk about a legacy. Like, if that game goes down just like it maybe should have, what do you think of Russell Wilson with 4 interceptions, a fumble, and like you said, almost pulling off the Delhomme?
It would have had a Delhomme shadow over this next season because he would have spent the next 7-8 months just answering questions about it.
Yeah.
I have a serious question for America.
He owes Mike McCarthy. I don't know what kind of car is good these days, but one of those classic Lamborghinis I think is a good start.
I have a serious question for America. You're really going to root for Richard Sherman, the all-time front-running trash talker? You're going to root for Russell Wilson and his alligator tears. You're going to root for Marshawn Lynch, who doesn't have the dignity to talk to reporters and just makes them feel bad about themselves. You're not going to root for Belichick and Brady and deflated footballs and just
what a disaster.
Who does America? America hates both of these teams now.
It's
a good one.
Alien versus Predator. What do you do with this?
Who's the good guy in this matchup?
Well, it's not Corolla, who has 5,000 on the Patriots. That's for sure.
Yeah. Who are you going to root for? Whoever you wager on?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like to see you win. I don't want to see you upset, Billy. But we have to. I mean, you would. It's impossible to put it aside. But based on your betting patterns and everything, who would you go with this game? If you weren't a fan of either,
I can't remove myself from it.
I know it's stupid.
I do think though, Belichick. Here's what I'll say. This is my very early thought process. Belichick's really good at if it's an offense that's a little bit one-dimensional or has some serious holes. He's very good at just exposing those holes. And Seattle lost Richardson, who hadn't had a huge statistical impact, but at least was another deep threat for them.
An option, yeah.
It's basically just Curse and Baldwin and tight ends now.
Right.
And like Seattle has problems. Like their return game the whole year, their kick returner, their punt returner, they've had really bad return game issues the whole year. You saw it yesterday with Baldwin dropped one. Yeah. But I think there's little holes that he can exploit. They'll figure out a way. They'll study whatever Green Bay did, and they'll figure out a way that Wilson doesn't scramble.
Well, yeah, and in many ways, and I hate when the reporter said after the game, does this taste the best out of any Super Bowl win? I hate it, but I'll say this: in many ways, this is the most important Super Bowl for Belichick. Wouldn't you say? Like, you don't want to fall into Marv Levy territory. 4 Super Bowl losses, even though they've won a bunch. It's very Popovich, Duncan, Spurs last year kind of vibe. It just puts the whole era in a different light because now you win 4 Super Bowls. You made 6. You made 9 AFC title games in 14 years. Brady puts him in a whole other level historically. I think this is the best team they've played, though, in the Super Bowl. I don't think you would say Panthers or Eagles, and all those Giants teams beat them.
People forget how good the Rams were.
I guess the Rams were.
The Rams were really good.
Yeah.
I mean, people were talking about the Rams in all-time terms going into that game.
Right. But that was the year they barely beat the Bucks, right, in the semifinals in the conference? Or was that the
Smash Mouth football?
Right.
Kind of did it to them, but yeah, I mean,
there's no reason Seattle should have crushed the Broncos last year. Like, we like Seattle, but we didn't see that coming. So
they're much tougher.
The offense was that much better, you think? I mean,
well, they're just tougher. They just manhandled them, and Manning had a crap day, and they had no plan B. And then, I think the more we've seen of John Fox, it's funny, Mays, who works for Grantland, huge Bears fan, it's like, hey, congratulations on being a relevant team that has no chance on winning the Super Bowl. Good luck.
Right.
Like, what do you do with that? But I agree. I think this is probably the best team the Patriots have played. Hopefully Sherman has an elbow injury that's going to bother him.
Sherman and Earl Thomas, they vowed that they're going to play, but big MRIs this morning. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, you talked about what's at stake for the Pats. Like, going back-to-back in the salary cap era is really impressive.
Yeah.
If Seattle did that.
I couldn't believe that stat where Seattle was the first Super Bowl team to win a playoff game in however many years.
Really hard. It's like hockey where, you play those 19 games or maybe even 20 in a couple cases to win the Super Bowl, and then you got to come back the next year and just physically – guys get paid off of what happened. They lost some guys. The Harvin trade didn't work out. They lost a couple of the guys from last year's team. And
it is sort of getting like hockey and baseball, where you just make the playoffs, and then you kind of have then it's a coin flip. Like I think that's how the Ravens played it. And
well, that's the thing. You go back year after year, right? And it's like whoever made the Super Bowl, at least one of the teams pulled the game out of their ass, and usually both. And I think the Pats pulled that Ravens game semi out of their ass, and the Seahawks pulled the game completely out of their ass.
Yeah.
And tough one for the Packers, tough one for the Ravens to watch, I think.
Definitely.
And I texted this to you. I couldn't help it. I wasn't trying to torture you. But it was hard not to watch that Packers-Seahawks game yesterday and not think that the Cowboys could have done the exact same thing.
Oh, it was gross. I couldn't take it. I said, it's one thing if Seattle's offense shows up or some kind, but and you don't want to compare like what the Cowboys definitely would have won or definitely would have lost. But if this is how they came out in the first half, I kind of think we're at least in it at the end. That's all I ever wanted. Sick.
A lot of sad fans.
A lot.
So you think
this is the really like between I know like Packers is the worst, Cowboys second worst, and Lions, but three franchises of fans just devastated in about 14 days, 13 days.
And you think this is going to be America's least favorite Super Bowl? Two teams that nobody likes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey, listen, I'm sorry, America, that Tom Brady, all he cares about is football and just setting a good example. Sorry. Just cares about family and football. Everyone went to see American Sniper this weekend. It's all about family and defending your country. Tom Brady's just about family and football, and you guys are against him. So you got to live with that.
Speaking of American Sniper and movies, you want to hit some of these Oscar odds?
Yeah, let's do that quickly.
Okay.
Because I have to go because we have a big Grantland basketball hour Saturday, 5 p.m. ESPN.
I know. I wish you luck with that. But
thanks, buddy.
So we had so it looks like a runaway in almost every category if you go by the odds that are listed.
Well, when the odds came out, everybody was like a 1-15 or 1-20 favorite, and it was like, wow, it's going to happen. But now this American Sniper thing kind of changed the storyline, I think.
Well, why? But it's not even up for Best Picture, right?
No, I think for Cooper, I think it changes it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because it was a phenomenon this weekend.
Yeah. I don't think that ever matters, does it? Does the box office ever matter?
No, but it gets a little ground. Like, remember, people are voting now.
Right. Okay.
And sometimes there's a little groundswell that goes, and people like this movie. I thought it was pretty generic, I got to say. I saw it, and I just felt like a movie I've seen 15 times. It wasn't filmed in a very creative way. Cooper's fantastic.
I thought he was good. I thought he was really good. And compared to that American Hustle nonsense, which I think I hated that movie. Like, wow, he just showed a lot of range, and I thought he played the part really well. I don't buy the propaganda. Everyone's talking about the propaganda. I don't think it was like that at all. And Bradley Cooper would say the same thing. But so I didn't even write his odds down for Best Actor. I think it was Keaton is -225 and Eddie Redmayne. Is it from the Theory of Everything?
I think Cooper's a real threat.
Really? All
Yeah,
right.
I do. We have me and Wesley and Chris Connolly are filming a special Oscar show this week, a preview show.
Yeah.
And the Cooper thing is pretty interesting because he's never really had a moment. This is 3 Oscar nominations for him now. You wouldn't think of him as an A-list major, maybe like has like the championship belt basically right now, but he might, And
yeah.
and
That's the only category. Yeah.
So what are his odds now?
Well, I have to look. Hold on. Let me see. Let me just go while I look. Boyhood 1 to 20 for Best Picture. 1 to 20 also for Best Director. That link later. And Julianne Moore 1 to 33 for Best Actress. Patricia Arquette 1 to 40 for Supporting Actress. I mean, these are runaways. They just give them to him now. J.K. Simmons, Best Supporting Actor is 1 to 25. I like that one too. And yeah, so Best Actor. Let me see.
I gotta say the Julianne Moore ad surprised me because I thought Reese Witherspoon was fantastic in Wild.
Yeah,
I really liked that movie and I liked her in it. And I'm not saying Julianne Moore wasn't better, but I'm surprised like people thought it was that dramatic. Like Reese Witherspoon's not even in the conversation.
Right. And I thought this Boyhood, I don't know. I think it's the most overrated of the year. I really do. It's nice that they shot it over 12 years, but they didn't go 3 months every 3 years. They went like 4 days every 3 years. And that still didn't end the movie if you watch it.
There's an Entertainment Weekly article about it, and somebody had a quote in there that I actually thought was pretty smart, which was basically like, it's one of those movies that hits each person a different way. And I think that's why it's probably going to win.
Okay, but for director, now
it's best.
You have to appreciate Birdman. The thing had 6 cuts in the whole movie.
Birdman has to be. If that guy doesn't win Best Director, that would be a shame.
He's not going to win. It's 1 to 20 for Boyhood.
For Best Director?
Yeah.
Oh, that's ludicrous.
I know.
I don't agree with that. Here's the thing with Boyhood. It was the best gimmick of the year.
Right.
And it was certainly first of its kind, will never be approached again. But for me, the biggest hole was like the kid. It was amazing to watch him get older and all that stuff. Not a great actor.
I thought he was better as it went on. I would have been worried. Maybe that's why the director should get accolades, because I thought his first few years of acting, I thought they were bad. They were
to build a whole movie around a guy, a 2.5 hour movie about somebody who's really not that good of an actor. I don't know. I thought Ethan Hawke was great.
Yeah, I mean that whole category is good. That's J.K. Simmons, who I think wins. That was a great performance of Whiplash. Ed Norton was great. Ruffalo
was really good too.
Yeah, he was really good. And Hawke and Duvall. I didn't like the judge too much. It was kind of
Duvall was a bogus nomination. Yeah. That's like, hey, he's old. Let's give him a nomination.
Right. But I'm looking at your Bradley Cooper, and it's not on a site that you could bet, but he's 50 to 1 odds to win.
Somebody always gets momentum from January to February. And the other possibility, and I already bet on this with you, was I think Selma, the director and the actor getting not nominated. There's a little potential with Selma because they did such a bad job of marketing that movie and getting the screeners out and just everything. They just botched it, and I think belatedly could get some momentum because it's really good.
No, I misspoke. Sniper is nominated for Best Picture. Sniper and Selma are 25 to 1.
Yeah, Sniper is a candidate now. It's it's going to have a lot of momentum from how it opened. And
all right.
I always have a theory that America is just ready for certain movies, where it's like some horror movie will do really well, and you think, oh, why did that movie do well? It's just like, well, America's ready for a horror movie. It'd been a while, And I think America was ready for just an old school war movie. It'd been a while. We'd had war movies, but they kind of new wave and people putting on infrared goggles and people. This was kind of a movie that could have come out 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Well,
here's what I think hurts this movie. The guy is a liar. The guy's kind of a liar.
There's going to be a whole smear campaign that will this is what they do now. They all try to pick apart everybody, the rivals' movies. And
normally there hasn't been a court case where the guy was, accused of slander, right? And in fact, I thought it was going to go the other way. I'm like, oh, Jesse Ventura is going to take no end of shit for this. If you don't know the story, the guy who wrote the book and wrote what became the movie, up until the point he died, he had claimed that Ventura said bad things about George Bush, and he punched him in a bar. And not only couldn't he prove that he punched him, but it seemed like they weren't even in the same country, Ventura and the American sniper. Right. And so he loses the court case. The guy dies. I don't want to ruin the movie or anyone, and then Ventura goes after him for punitive damages and wins. Like, that is really hard to pull off in court.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to pull off,
especially against a dead man. So I don't know if that's going to weigh against him.
I think those best film odds will drop. I don't think they'll win, but I think Cooper's in the mix for best actor.
Yeah. All right.
I think.
Interesting.
What did you think of Imitation Game?
I got through half of it yesterday, and I'm going to watch the rest tonight. But I liked it so far. You liked it? It's a nice story that no one really knows.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like Cumberbatch. I'm not sure I would have nominated him.
Yeah, well, he had to be a little weird and everything. So.
Yeah, he was too annoying. Good. It's weird. People feel like it was kind of an off year. There were a lot of movies I liked this year. I don't think there weren't those like knockout punch movies, but there were a lot of really good ones.
Yeah, I thought so. I think we get jaded.
Solid year.
We get jaded because we have these screeners and we sound like a-holes. But yeah, it was pretty good.
It seems like
I don't think ratings-wise, like we have a show, Jimmy Kimmel Live has a show after the Oscars, and I was like, it's not going to be good just because these categories are such runaways and there's no truly impactful movies, even though they were solid, I thought. But I don't. Neil Patrick Harris has his hands full with this one.
Sniper will get some momentum I think Selma will get some momentum. Boy, people are going to talk themselves into these Oscar movies.
All right. I hope so. Of course,
anything to promote?
To bet this. Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight. Danny DeVito, Abby Jacobson, Bad Sons performing. And later in the week, Eric Stone Street, Ewan McGregor, Edward Norton. My Grantland Super Bowl Prop Blog Spectacular next Thursday. I guess we'll be doing a podcast in the middle of next week with our props, right? And
we'll do our annual prop pod.
That's great. And
I'm
also
excited for that.
Thursday,
the Henry Hynoski Memorial Super Bowl ridiculous prop bet.
I have to look. I'm going to be researching hours and hours for that. The next Henry.
Oh, that was a great moment yesterday. The John Kuhn touchdown. That wasn't a touchdown for like 70-1.
That would have been 71. His elbow was just down. And also
our friend Louis Kay almost won on that.
That's right.
I'm glad he didn't. I'm still mad about 2010, Louis.
You will hate Corolla more than Louis Kay when this is all over with.
I can't believe this Corolla news.
Next Thursday, I'll be in Glendale on SportsCenter giving out my Super Bowl pick and presenting some comedy I shot in Las Vegas. That's it.
I'm going to break a bottle of Mangria over Corolla's head when I see him.
He jinxed you.
And then push him into a bunch of Mangria kegs.
And they have to lose, too. They can't even win by one because he got them with points. So, that's trouble.
That's it. That's it for the B.S. Report. Check out the Grantland Basketball Hour at 5 p.m. ESPN, Jalen Rose, Jason Whitlock, Zach Lowe, Allison Rosen from Corolla's podcast. I'm going to drag her on somehow.
Please do it. Please.
Ridiculous, yeah. Oh, I'm so mad at Corolla. You ruined my day.
Good job by you, Billy.
Good job by you.
Target percent off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
Gotta say, Golic, great call on grabbing Subway for lunch and getting guacamole on our subs.
Told you this new guac really amps up the flavor.
Yep, something adding up things can be great. Guacamole on your sub, a new co-host to replace you.
What was that?
Oh, no, nothing.
Subway now has deliciously rich new guacamole made from ripe Hass avocados with just a hint of garlic, onion, and jalapeno. Discover how new guacamole turns up the flavor on any of your freshly made favorites. Subway, eat fresh.